You are a teenage boy. Your tribe is in shambles. Your mother, dead, your father off in a war he cannot possibly win. You are the eldest male left behind, with only a grandmother and a younger sister for family. You become jaded, skeptical of the world around you. You're rare to trust, but out of fear, out of necessity. Any day, any moment, the Fire Nation can come again. And when they do, you will stand guard alongside a platoon of children younger than you are as the last line of defense. I was rewatching season 1 of Avatar the other day and got to the episode in which we're introduced to Jet. I preemptively braced myself because I remembered it as being a bit difficult to watch. The thing is, that's a really rough episode if you're a fan of Katara. It does a significant amount to reduce her to being a bit of a damsel, contrary to what the rest of the series offers. In that light, this episode can be hard to get through and considered not that great, but this time around I received a different experience. Taking the dynamic between Jet and Katara for what it was and choosing to look elsewhere, I found this to be a pretty important episode for the development of Sokka. When we first meet him, Sokka is egotistical, with a clear desire to lead and a lack of respect for those beneath him. He doesn't take his responsibilities lightly, even disregarding the Avatar for what dangers he might present to his tribe and family. And when eventually swayed to joining the Avatar's side and going on a worldwide adventure, he appoints himself as the group's leader, even above that of Aang. Sokka's character arc is one of being humbled. It is learning to accept his peers as peers and not underlings. It's not accepting that he isn't a leader, but rather how to lead while still respecting his company. Jet presents an interesting foil for Sokka in the sense that he is the singular ruler of this band of rebels. They all listen to his command and fall prey to his manipulations. Much like Sokka, Jet is particularly clever and is able to use that keen mind to get his underlings to do basically whatever he wants. For a while, he's even able to manipulate Sokka. Recognizing the potential in having two waterbenders doing his bidding, Jet is quick to rope them into his group, telling them tales of how the Fire Nation wronged them and how much good they're doing for the world. But Jet identifies Sokka as a fellow leader and having sway over the other two, and when Sokka wants to leave, he uses his silver tongue to appeal to Sokka's ego, claiming that he needed him for an important mission. Of course this would turn Sokka to his side. There's a moment at the end of season 2 where Sokka is with his father and a battalion of Water Tribe soldiers. During their meeting, they spot a fleet of Fire Nation ships, to which his father gives the command for all men to prepare for battle. Sokka asks what he should do, to which his father replies that all men must prepare for battle. This was an incredibly warming moment for Sokka, as it was what he always wanted. If given the opportunity, he'd have marched off to war years ago alongside his father after their tribe was attacked. But being a child, he was told to stay home. Everything he did in protecting his tribe since then was done in the facade of being a man, so that one day he might be accepted by his father. He wanted to feel important. So when Jet comes to him with a mission that only Sokka could do, well, forget every bit of hesitance or caution, we're going on a mission. But it's on this adventure that Sokka learns the dangers of a leader like Jet. In a brief encounter with an innocent elderly man who just happens to be from the Fire Nation, Sokka realizes the ruthlessness that Jet holds. He witnesses the lengths at which Jet will go to take down the enemy, and the sacrifices made in doing so. Particularly when Sokka himself becomes the sacrifice. There's a moment where Jet successfully turns Katara and Aang against Sokka when he pulls out a knife that supposedly belonged to the old man Sokka was trying to protect. It's an interesting knife with a pretty notable curve to its blade. In fact, I think I've seen that somewhere before. That's Smellery's knife as seen in the Freedom Fighters introduction when they fight a group of Fire Nation soldiers. This is planted evidence and paints a pretty clear picture to Jet's deceiving ways. When the time comes for Jet to try and sway Sokka to his favor once more, he appeals to his ego again. He tells Sokka that he had to lie to Katara and Aang because they don't understand war, not like he and Sokka does. They don't understand sacrifice and doing what needs to be done for the greater good. But Sokka, surely he understands. However, it doesn't work. Sokka has seen the dangers of a leader like Jet. He sees how Jet's good intentions have been twisted and how he uses the people beneath him with no respect for anything or anyone. Sokka is able to save the day off of the goodwill between him and the old man he protected, and the episode ends with Sokka flying the group off into the sunset. Only to then be told he's going the wrong way and humbly turning around. But what happens when Sokka comes to terms with his peers being equal? What happens when he no longer sees himself as their superior? In these moments, self-doubt about one's purpose arise. We get some of the best Sokka moments of the show in Season 3, perhaps starting with the episode introducing Piandao. This episode opens up with the breakout of a fire in the surgical, almost rehearsed response from Team Avatar. Each bender approaches the situation in a way that only they could, and in a matter of moments, the danger is relinquished and the fire snuffed. But in between these moments of bending prowess are cuts of Sokka, juxtaposing calculated magical action with the mundane inaction of a helpless non-bender. Without the clear, defined superiority that came with his old sense of ego, Sokka gets barraged with the fact that he is not powerful. That when the going gets tough, it is Toph, or Aang, or Katara who is able to supply the heavy ammunition that leads them to victory. This is what brings Sokka to wanting to learn the art of swordsmanship. And to reinforce the theme of humility, it is not Sokka's accomplishments that earn him the right to study under Swordmaster Piandao, but rather his humble approach and recognition of being perhaps unworthy that impress the teacher. Sokka does learn how to wield a blade, but that is not why he leaves his master a stronger man. Piandao recognizes Sokka for his intelligence, quick wit, and creativity, things that Sokka always had but needed to be assured of. He isn't able to best his master in a fight, but demonstrates a variety of strategies that prove why he is a suitable leader. His company is powerful, but they rely on him for his brain, and it's through Piandao's teaching that he recognizes this. This isn't the end of Sokka's character arc, though it could be, if not for the fact that Sokka's intelligence fails him. Later on in Season 3, we get the Day of the Black Sun, in which under the guiding leadership of Sokka, a combined effort of old friends and new siege the Fire Nation in hopes of ending the 100-year war. The build-up to this invasion is one of incredible anxiety for all those involved. We see it take its toll on Sokka when he attempts to deliver the final plan to his troops, only to stumble entirely and need to be relieved by his father. Afterwards, he remarks to Aang that this was his moment to prove himself. It was his moment to solidify his purpose as a leader, and he blew it. But Aang knew this wasn't his moment. Aang knew that if this plan was successful and that they beat the Fire Nation, then Sokka did everything right. If only that happened. At every bump in the road along the way, it's clear that Sokka is riddled with anxiety. Though he does eventually get to prove himself when his father is injured and he is forced to take the reins of the troops, leading them through unique formations and strategies that do get them into the actual city. But ultimately none of this mattered, for Ozai was hidden away. To touch on a previous note, Sokka in this moment relegates the decision to pursue Ozai further to Aang, not because he is incapable as a leader, but because he trusts in his allies' opinions. But the plan was still a failure, with even Sokka inadvertently putting the nail in the coffin as Azula baits him into wasting their time. With this blemish on his record, Sokka begins to regress. Not only did they waste their golden opportunity of an eclipse, but his failures led to the capture of nearly all of his troops. People who were not even necessarily a part of this war, but came on his goodwill, now locked up in Fire Nation prisons. In this regression, Sokka takes it upon himself to free them. He forgoes the approval or assistance of his peers, acknowledging his own fault in the matter, and deciding to break into the boiling rock himself. This is where Zuko comes in. Zuko's time with Team Avatar was brief, having only lasted half of the last season, but in these episodes, the impact he has on our cast is incredible. Through the Southern Raiders and his teaching of Aang, he is able to provide an excellent foil to our main characters, and in many cases provide good capstones to their arcs, Sokka included. Zuko forces himself onto this mission, refusing to allow Sokka to shoulder this burden alone. He's here narratively to remind Sokka of the importance in companionship, that he doesn't need to be this lone wolf leader that he once was, and that he could rely on his allies, his friends, to help him. But it requires more than just showing up to save Sokka. When they eventually reach Boiling Rock, in response to this being a bad plan, Sokka points out that many of his plans recently have been bad, and because of that, he's decided to wing this one. Here we see Sokka forsaking his greatest strength in desperation. He forgets why he is valuable, doubting his self-worth, and trying to brute force his way into redemption. This two-part episode is actually one of my favorites in the entire series, with a great reintroduction of Suki and some solid development for Mei and Ty Lee. Sokka is not able to break out his father through his own efforts, but rather a combination of allies around him, each lending their strengths and talents to the cause. Suki's feats of acrobatics to kidnap the warden, his father to lend the old water tribe creativity in devising a plan, Mei and Ty Lee in stopping Azula in her tracks, and Zuko for being the rock on which Sokka could rely to the very end when he breaks the lever to prevent anyone from stopping their gondola, an action Sokka had not even considered. The mission is a success, and Sokka redeemed, not through brute force or lone endeavors, but through trust. Trust in his friends and companions. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and leave a like, comment down below with your thoughts on Sokka, and share it with anyone who loves Avatar: The Last Airbender. This has been brought to you by our lovely patrons at patreon.com/KatoIT, so if you enjoy it, please consider supporting us over there and joining the likes of Paige Mulder, Renegade68, the Hunter x Hunter 2011 Dick Writing Association, H2 Mass, Landon, Spencer Irula Games, Doji, Wadzane Mafunde, Miguel Torres, and Lerpa Nuge. Thank you all for the support. My name is Hoodie, this is Kato, and I will see you next week.